It always helps with our what's the word? Helps with the
continuity of the show.
Continuity of the show. Perfect, Bob. Thank you. I sometimes get stuck for words when I'm trying to think about a clever word.
Yeah.
And obviously I was stuck there with that one.
Don't ask me to spell it.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's guest you may or may not recognise. He's been very much a part of the forefront of many of the charity gigs in and around the Banbury area, such as Deer Jam, Blocks Fest, Bod Fest, Music Mix events. And presently he also runs his own radio show, predominantly promoting Banbury local musicians. There's lots to talk about. He's a true gentleman, and he's, in many would say, he's very much an unsung hero. But let's find out, and welcome our good friend Bob Dainty.
I thought I was on tonight, but that didn't sound anything like me. Thanks for asking me, Mark.
It really absolute pleasure.
It really is a pleasure, and looking forward to it.
Oh, good. Well, it's lovely to see you looking so fresh with your fresh new haircut.
Yes, don't talk about it.
and your second injection.
That's
done.
It. Yes, there are people. One of the advantages of being old.
There it is. Congratulations, Bob. He's got it done. He's got it done. So that's really, really looking great. Hi, Jeff Wilkinson. Really nice to see you too.
Hello.
We have somebody here. Bob, let's go back to the start. You hailed from Birmingham, I understand.
Yes, I come from Sheldon in Birmingham, which I used to tell people it was Solihull, because Solihull was a much more nicer area. But now I come from Sheldon. I lived in Birmingham till I was 18, and I come up to Banbury with the rest of the family to General Foods, or Alfred Birds and Sons, Maxwell House Coffee, or whatever. Okay. I don't know what it's called nowadays.
Yeah, no idea. GF, General Foods, I suppose, is still the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and was you obviously before you got to Banbury? What was your musical kind of interest at that point?
Oh, it was fantastic because I used to knock around with and meet musicians that weren't big musicians in the day, but boy, they made it in the end. And I still, one of the groups in England, I still run their Facebook page. That's the Rockin' Berries. And I first got in touch with Berries in 1963, and they had their first million seller in 1964. But then I was also at school with a group called the Applejacks, a chap called Phil Cash. I used to play football with Jeff Lynne and Roy Wood.
Who are they?
Oh, yeah, it's great. The only thing with them two is you would be playing a game, 11 aside, then all of a sudden Roy and Jeff would say, we've got an idea for a song. We were playing football in Glebe Farm. They lived in Shard End, or Leigh Village, Roy did. And they'd just forget the football and go and write songs. So we were 9 against 11. But they're nice blokes.
How old were the guys then when they were starting out with this?
They must have been about 15. But everybody in those days in Birmingham, because people talk about Liverpool being the centre of music, but I think Birmingham was just as much the same. Everybody had guitars or drums, like Muggins here. We set up a band. We were called the Vampires. And our first gig was at the Co-op Hall in Alum Rock, and set everything up. They pulled the curtains back and I froze. We got through it. Because I used to do a drum solo and sing a song that the Beatles done called Boys. Ringo used to do it. I managed to get through it, but we got back into the green room, as they call it now. And I said, this isn't for me. And I got rid of the drums.
That was quite a big kind of doing something quite so extravagant on your first gig, though, Bob. A drum solo, trying to sing and play drums. It's quite. It
was all right in our mate's dining room, but when you were, there were probably 300-400 people in there, and you look. But I don't think I opened my eyes at all. I couldn't look at them.
Yeah, I think we all have memories of that. I'm not quite to the extent of freezing, maybe, but yeah, I think we all frozen to some extent. Or even some of the guys I've spoken to. over the last 10 weeks or so. They've all got kind of stories of their first gig being, you know,
Yeah,
a
but
bit
the other thing
shaky.
is, you know, most musicians have to have a loosener, a brandy or a whiskey and something before they. I don't drink, never have done.
Okay.
So, you know, people say, why don't you drink? I said, well, you know, I'm silly enough without having a drink. But they were great days, very formative. And all, you know, the first time I see the Berries, I seen 3 times in the same week. They were absolutely brilliant. I walked into, it was called a Macadam, and it was like the Beach Boys were playing. Their harmonies were so good. And then they went into comedy and stuff like that. They done the Royal Command performance in 1967 when Tommy Cooper was there, and the Queen shook hands and went walking off. And Tommy Cooper, excuse me, ma'am, do you like football? And she says, no, not really. And Tommy Cooper said, can I have your cup final ticket? And that's what that is remembered for. But my mate, the drummer in the Berries, he said he was walking at the Palladium, walking down this walkway, and coming up the other way was Bob Hope. And he said out loud, what am I doing here with him? And Bob Hope heard him, smiled and walked on.
Oh,
but no,
nice
there's great stories in Birmingham. And also, the best thing about it was, after all the gigs, you'd go to this Alex Pie store by Birmingham Station, and all the bands would be there. They'd come 2, 3 in the morning when they finish their gigs. You'd see everybody, and there was no air to them at all. It was all right, mate, and did you enjoy the show and stuff like that. And I had a great life at that time, but because all the family worked at GF, we had to come to Banbury. You know, my mum was there. I had 4 sisters, and they all worked. So, but I did pop back for a while. But I'd met a young lady, and I come back and married her eventually, and we're still together.
Awesome. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Well, while you're there, Bob, we've got a few people listening in. We've got John Evans. Hi, Bob. John. Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Carol. Leigh. Thanks for your comment on there. Leigh, really appreciate that. Yeah, so you came into Banbury, and music, you must have sold the drum kit then at that point.
Oh, yes, yeah. I had nothing to do with music at all. I knew I couldn't do it. I often tried writing songs and that, but the thing is, they all end up with rude words in like bum and tum and, you know. But no, I started going to the Admiral Holland because they used to have the groups, the Team Beats, the Road Knights, the Sifters, groups like that from Banbury. But we also used to go over to the youth club at Hilton Road, and that's where the first time I see this chap called Alex Reid, and Alex was a class act. And I was talking to a chap the other day, and Alex had got the gig with Amen Corner.
As what? Oh, singer, okay.
Yeah, and he didn't turn up, and they got Andy Fairweather Low in. But, you know, it didn't bother Alex, but unfortunately we lost Alex last year as well. But that's all part of music history that, you know, they laid the foundations for the Banbury as it is today, because we're in such a healthy position, aren't we? So many bands, great musicians.
Yeah.
And also, a thing that I must say, the public in Banbury are so loyal to the bands, you know, because the story was about the Rolling Stones. Where's, hold on. The Rolling Stones played the 16th of August, 1963 at the Winter Gardens, and people are going to see the Astronauts, not the Rolling Stones.
And the Astronauts was the band with Tony Soul, wasn't it, in the Astronauts as well?
Hang on. I don't know how the pictures will show, but that is them.
That's the Astronauts?
That's the Astronauts, Banbury's first band, electric band, which I think they formed in about 1961, because I think the name before that was the Black Diamonds. And I always said, well, Tony was always a diamond geezer. But yeah, they backed so many people. And I've got a little thing here. This half a ticket from that night. was sold on eBay for 100 quid.
Wow.
Half a ticket.
Because of the Rolling Stones written on it.
That's why I saved mine.
Which was that one? We couldn't see that one, Bob. What was that one?
That was one of the gigs that I'd done at GF Club.
Okay.
This was a couple of years ago, 5th of
Okay.
October 2019, because we used to put up the Winter Gardens groups, but we've lost a couple of, you know, love friends, and we had to do something different. So we got this chap called Terry Webster, who actually people hate because he'd done a lot of Jive Bunny stuff. And musicians don't like Jive Bunny, but the connection was in 1963, Terry Webster come down and played with Jet Harris and the Blackjacks, I think they were called. It was their last gig back in Jet Harris, and Jet Harris asked the astronauts if they would become his band. And I think they were all up for it, apart from Bill, because Bill was about 18 at the time, and he'd just started a pension at Telecom. But they were a brilliant group. They backed so many. You know, I've got a list there where I could tell you who they backed with. Ackerbilk, their bass guitarist, had to sit in with Ackerbilk because the bass guitarist had a bad tummy. So Stan played the bass with them.
These all gigs at the Winter Garden, were they?
Oh,
Bob?
yeah. They played with the Temperance Seven. These are probably names you don't know about. You're young, aren't you?
So that's a big jazz band, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. You're driving me crazy. They made their debut at the Winter Gardens on March the 3rd, 1962, and they supported an act called Peppy and the New York Twisters, obviously American. Then John Barry, you know John Barry, he died, great composer and everything. He actually said in The Guardian, he played tribute saying what a brilliant band they were. This is just 4 or 5 local blokes that play. Then they backed Emil Ford and the Checkmates, Jet Harris. Jet Harris and that they had 1,600 people there. I mean, the Winter Gardens was way ahead of its time.
Was it run by? I think I went in there. Well, I was probably just a little bit too young. I do recall it. I just recall a wooden floor. That's all I think that was right.
I think it was a granwood floor, which was stone. But that's it.
Okay.
I don't know whether it shows up. And that's the position of it in the high street.
Just keep it still for a sec. That's okay. Is it behind that? Okay.
It's up the top by, well, it's a Polish shop and that now, I think, there.
Up by the cross, isn't it?
But it's incredible. You used to walk off the high street, up an alley, up some steps.
Show us that internal picture again, Bob. I didn't quite get that. Just hold it on there nice and still for us. So just, yeah, there you go.
It was incredible. And of course, up the other way, you had the bar, where all the blokes used to go there, drinking all night. And when it come to last song time, they'd have the first dance of the night.
Okay. was it run by quite a character, wasn't it? The person that used to run. It was run by
Ethel Usher. A very nice lady, but she didn't stand any messing about from anybody. Because the Stones went there and she said, "You're not going on my stage dressed like that." So they went down to Littlewoods and they got some of these, I think they were called donkey collared shirts, lilac, and the astronauts backed them. The Stones went on, done their bit, the astronauts went on, and when the astronauts come back, those shirts were thrown in the corner, and Stan Reeves picked one up to wipe his guitar down with. He said it was full of sweat and everything, and he threw it back in the corner. But think what they could be worth nowadays. You know,
it's quite funny to think the woman's told them that they've got to smarten themselves up before they got on stage.
Right. Because the other rumour was that people have got wrong was she'd booked the Beatles. She had booked the Beatles and she'd booked them for £300. And people are saying that the Beatles asked for another 50 quid and she wouldn't pay it. Well, that's not true. Tony was actually in the office when it must have been Brian Epstein or somebody like that phoned up and said, we are not doing any more little gigs we do in theatres, because Love Me Do had just got in the charts and they said, we're not doing any. So it was the Beatles that refused the Winter Gardens, not the Winter Gardens refused the Beatles. But other groups I've had there with funny stories. The Hollies were there before they made it. They were great, but this one night, the astronauts had packed all the gear away, went home. Middle of the night, Tony had a knock on his door saying, can we have a look in your van? Some gear's gone missing from the Hollies. It's microphones. Anyway, Tony said, well, we haven't got them. And about 3 years later, when the Hollies had travelled all the world, Alan Clark called Tony over and said, be careful, they nick your gear here.
So they came back to Banbury to play again?
Oh, yeah, I think they played 3 times, the Hollies. Which is great because they're a great band. Another funny story, the Mindbenders come here and they come in 2 cars, because when you made it, you got a vehicle and you had a roadie, so you'd come down in your car. So the Mindbenders come down in 2 cars. Eric Stewart was talking to the ladies. The first car went home.
This is Eric Stewart from 10cc.
Yes, that's him.
Okay.
Then he went for a wee. And while he was in the toilets, the other car thought he'd gone in the first car and drove off. And there were no trains at that time of night. So Tony had him stay at his mum's. And of course, Eric Stewart didn't have any money either. So Tony paid for that. You know, which is the stories that Tony had and he's given me. And I've got them recorded here, there and everywhere because, he's such a character. And then one of the best nights we had, I think it was the road nights supporting Chris Farlow and the Thunderbirds. Chris Farlow, fantastic, the best soul singer, in my opinion, to play the Winter Gardens. But when you look at his backing band, it was incredible. The drummer was the bloke out, Carl Palmer. Do you know, out of Emerson, Lake and Palmer?
Okay.
Nice, and all that lot. And the guitarist was Country Boy himself. Come on, do you know his name?
Yes, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm what I'm like with names.
Yeah. And it's been Albert Leigh.
Albert Leigh, yeah, okay.
Absolutely wonderful. But Albert's been there a few times because he was also in a country band called Jed Ford, Country Fever. But the people that have played at the Winter Gardens, I've got a photograph here somewhere. There was a group called the Shanes, and Mick Fleetwood was drummer before he'd made it.
Right.
Then one week, another band that was superb, I think not the Astronauts, the Road Knights supported them, was a group called Episode 6. Fabulous band. The next time I see them, they were Deep Purple.
From Birmingham.
They just changed and changed. So Banbury was the place to be. So I've come to Birmingham, a big city, come to a little town, and the booking agent was a bloke called Calvert, and he bought them all from Birmingham to here, and the Banbury bands used to go Bedford and places like that. No, it's got a lot to be proud of in Banbury.
Oh, cool. I mean, there's one very big band right here that Jeff Wilkinson's mentioned on the comments. He reckons he saw Pan's People there.
Yes, yeah, Pan's People play. Now, that would have been in the 70s. Yeah. I wish I'd had time to prepare all
this. This is similar to Stan's from Truckle Truck's diary. You've got a similar list.
I'm looking here. In 1970, the Fantastics played. Edison Lighthouse, the Equals, Adge Cut and the Wurzels, we won't say anything about that. Chicken Shack, Charlie and Enid's Fox. Probably doesn't mean anything to you, but they had a big hit with Mockingbird. They were superstars. Another good group were called Johnny Johnson and the Bandwagon, the Groundhogs. This is what you had going in
Was
Banbury.
you keeping all this information from that time, Bob, or have you just acquired this since, or is it?
No, what actually happened was I used to do a lot with the Radio Oxford, and I had a friend on there called Mark Watson. He said, "How about this program where you research Banbury? We'll get somebody to research Oxford." So I spent many, many months and long hours in the Guardian office, taking it all down. But I had seen most of the act in the 60s. 70s, it dwindled a wee bit, because you look here, Skinny Cat, that's a Bernie Marsden's band, isn't it? And is it Mick Bullard on the thing?
Sorry, say again?
Mick Bullard, I think, played the drums in Skinny Cat.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe someone will tell us.
What else have we got? Yeah, Hot Chocolate, Edison Lighthouse again. Because I used to come back. I'm just trying to find out. Tell Jeff, I'll find out and I'll tell him when they played. But you just look here, the show stoppers, Jimmy James and the Vagabonds. It was the place that Millie, My Boy Lollipop, she was there. But she had a different band then. That was the Milk Band. Oh, the Milk River Band. But, we could go on about the 60s and 70s, and I might bore your audience. But no,
it's nice to hear. It's lovely.
Yeah. But
Leigh Chambers said, yes, it was Bullard with Bernie, and also someone else in the band called Ray. So Leigh knows a little bit about that as well. Leigh Chambers. Yeah. So
cheers.
All that happened. You were still working for the radio show up until what, the 80s, 70s? What did you continue with that?
No. This all started late in life for me. It's come late in life for me, really. But I wouldn't have been able to give it the time running my own business and that sort of thing. But it's been, it's wonderful. I've enjoyed it. I've met lots of nice people. And, there are other people about that aren't so nice. But on the whole, it's been great. But my project at the moment, I'm trying to get a blue plaque for where the Winter Gardens was.
Oh, okay, nice.
But it's very hard work. I had a lot of writing about it. First of all, we lost it. We were runners up because the BBC, I've got this to fill in now.
Okay.
It's about blue plaques, but this will be the third attempt. I sent one off in 2019 and it took ages to get a reply. But the reply was basically, thank you very much for your proposal for a blue plaque for the Banbury Winter Gardens and your detailed description of its glory days. Apologies for delayed response. As you say, the site is fondly remembered locally and hosted some great entertainers. I think a local town plaque to mark the place would be appropriate. The blue plaques are concerned, and it's only for very high and unusual achievements and a clear legacy with often a national dimension. So we know you're disappointed and we're not able to cover, but I'm not going to stop at that. They know nothing about it. They don't know what went on there. I said, it's like the NEC, way ahead of its time, but yet they give a blue plaque to one of the park and ride places in Oxford because it was where they had their first park and ride.
Yeah, slightly biased then.
Yeah.
I'll keep going, Bob. I'm sure we're all behind you. That'd be a brilliant thing for the town.
It's not easy to get one. Because I thought about buying one myself and putting it up, but there's so many
not the same thing, really.
Insurance-wise. But while we're talking about that, I was on the committee at Radio Oxford when you put in your nominations, and the last two, one was the Winter Gardens, and the other one was Chipping Norton Recording Studios. Who got it?
Yes. Yeah.
Chipping Norton. And no,
Mm.
no doubt, you know, I can't see why we couldn't have had two. There was a lot of good things at Chipping Norton, but it was a very short time span from when they opened and closed. Oh, I've broke my mic. When they opened and closed. But the Winter Guards was 1956 till 1982.
Yeah.
But no, we will still go for it
Yeah.
because
Keep doing it.
I've got a big love for Banbury as well. You know, I'm a Brummie, I'm proud of Birmingham, but I'm proud of Banbury as well.
Mhm.
And I think we need something up at the top of the high street
Mm.
to draw
Yeah.
people in. Not that it'll just, you know, a blue plaque will bring them in,
Yeah.
but it's a reason to go up there, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a start, isn't it? You know,
Yeah, well,
it's
it is a start.
yeah. So just talking of starts, I mean, when you do so much, so many things, but obviously most people know you from when we see you out and about supporting the local musicians. Now, as far as I understand, you obviously the charity side of promotion of music, you started doing some charity gigs, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
How long ago did that start, Bob?
Well, what happened was the very first bringing back the Winter Gardens, Tony and I got together and we said, it's 50 years this year, 2011. Can we do something like this? So we got all the bands together and looking at it, the Road Knights hadn't been together for 45 years, I think it was. And the funny story about that, Bob in the Road Knight still had a shirt from the 60s and it fitted him.
Right.
We got Leigh Marvin 4. The year before, I think Leigh Marvin 4 had done their first gig. The Teen Beats I spoke to on the BBC radio programme. I got the lead singer, who's a very talented man, Martin Rees, and he said no, he didn't want to be reminded. Anyway, I give him a second chance, spoke to him, he said, oh, I'd love to do it. And I said, that's a big change. He said, oh, I can't remember what I said to you. But Martin went on to Club Standard. He was with a very good group from Rugby, I think it was. And they were always busy. But he did regret giving up a lot of his kids' time to go out performing.
Yeah.
But no, we got them all together and we had the Astronauts, and that turned out to be their last gig ever. And we put them on top of the bill. I think that the problem was as well, we had it from 7:30 till 12:30. And that very night, they finished the show and it was Tony's 70th birthday. But it was a dream. And as you see this ticket here, I printed them off myself. And I put them in GF Club Christmas Eve. And every ticket, the 250, had gone by New Year's Eve. I couldn't walk around town because people were saying, we want a ticket, we want a ticket, and that sort of thing. But we are sure that people printed their own tickets. But we had a raffle. Whenever we have a raffle, it's a guitar. And that night I had it signed by the Rockin' Berries, raised 400 quid. And at the end of the night, we got up on stage. And I must say, Phil Aries was compere that night and he was brilliant. He really was. Anyway, at the end of the night, people said, can you do it again? So I said to the band, I put the ball in their court. I said, can we do it again? And they said, yeah. So we've done it again in November 2011. But unfortunately, we couldn't have the Road Knights. You know, they were all. So I think Tony was probably one of the youngest. So we had the basic core of what we had before. And we had Cover to Cover. Do you know Cover to Cover? Ron and Roy Reddy.
No.
A couple of others. So then we had another band step in called the Standing Stones. And that's sold out. We've never not sold one of these out. And the money goes to, you know, I've got a list of where it goes and thank you letters. And that is the point of it, to raise money. But unfortunately, one of the standing stands, Derek, died. So we done one solely for him at Wood Green Leisure Centre. The biggest mistake we ever made. The sounds were awful, but it was also, I think it was the 13th of July, and it was the hottest day on record. But we sold over 400 tickets for that one venue. And we also had another one booked for the Winter Garden, the Winter Gardens reunion, because all the young lads, you know, I say young lads, the 50-year-olds, they said, can you help us? We never got the chance to play the Winter Gardens, but we'd love to. So we got a lineup at Wood Green Leisure Centre, and the lineup would have been the Duckworths, the original Blue Meanies, the Big Belush, Nevermind, and Leigh Chambers. But because of the sound and everything, we called that one off. But then we started introducing, as well as bringing back the Winter Gardens, the Winter Garden revival, and we've sold the Mill and GF Club out. Let's have a look. 3 times. That's with the bands. Then last year and the year before, we tried something different. We got, excuse me for popping in and out.
It's all right, no problem.
Revivals like that. Can you see it? Or
yeah, we can see that.
Oh, you can see it. That's all. We got all those lads. They sold it out twice,
Cool.
which was absolutely brilliant. But the service at one of them was pretty awful. So then we moved back to General Foods for one. But then, I don't know whether you know, but the Mill needs a lot of support nowadays because it's a charity.
So it's run by a charity down there, is it?
Yes, it's owned by Chilwell District Council, I think, but it's run by a charity. And they get in touch with us saying they'd love to have us. So we said, well, we can't have the problems that we had before. And to be honest, we haven't. But we've done, last year and the year before, we've done very risky. It was an originals night. We had bands coming and playing their own music.
Sure.
Which is hard, isn't it? When you get one, we had Dave Arrowsmith, Rufus, the Medicine Men, Damien Black. But, you know, we sold another, we didn't lose money, but we didn't make a lot. Then we had a great thing. I tried to get the Soul Club in Banbury interested in this because the Mill wanted to put on a soul night, you know, Northern Soul Night. So we've done that. That was very good. We got a DJ from down Harwich and another one from Abingdon, and they donated the time, but, you know, I made sure they had some money and that sort of thing for petrol. That went well, but we started noticing times were getting harder, weren't they? This was September 2019. And then last January, January the 11th, 2020, we put nothing on but live local bands. We had Catfish Creek, Theodore Lamb, Social Services, Until Dawn. And that done very well. But we knew things were changing. You know,
in what way?
Money was getting tighter. You know,
Right.
It's not only COVID that's messed things up. Things were going downhill, I think, business-wise, for lots of people. But the support that we've got, you'd see the same people, but it was always difficult. We always said we'd pitch our price at £10, no more. But when you've got bands and that on in town in the pub and it's free entry, you're up against that, aren't you?
Absolutely.
But, you know, I'm not knocking anybody because the support that I get, you know, you say, I do this, I do that, but I couldn't do it without you blokes. Oh, could I? You know.
Well, no, but I think the bands that I mean, like we said, I mean, having the opportunity to play. If it wasn't for you guys organising this, then many of the newer bands and wouldn't have the opportunity, Bob. And it kind of works both ways. You know, we don't. I mean, say we. I mean, the bands don't do it for money generally. Most bands do it for well, I'd say 99% of the bands do it for fun and to have an audience, So what you're creating by doing all this, Bob, is not only we're raising money, but having an opportunity to get out and meet our friends, because all the guys that I know and are friends with, and people that come and watch the bands are certainly my best friends, So, that's what.
They're a decent lot of folks. I found them, you can trust them. And another one of the best things that I've found with bringing back the Winter Gardens and that, how the new bands have integrated and respect bands.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mutual respect, isn't there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was saying, I think I was talking to Sean from the Duckworths a few weeks back and saying, how much we went. I think it was Matty's birthday party when he was 50 a few years ago. I know he won't mind me saying that. And there was he had a pub full of musicians, and I was in there, and everyone has thought, crikey, this is like my youth here. This is all these people, and I, even though I don't know them all by kind of that closely, I feel really quite close to them all.
Yeah. And you do stick up for each other and that sort of thing. But I'm very annoyed with Matty. He has this birthday party virtually every year at the Brasenose, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's a day or the weekend, because my daughter was born the 18th of January. Matt is the 19th of January. So, as much as I love the bloke, I don't love him more than my darling daughter. So I'm always down in Hertfordshire or something. But there was one year, I'm not sure whether it was his 50th, when it was a bit snowy and we couldn't get down there. And I went to Matty's party, and I left it for a couple of hours because Chuckle Truck were playing at the pub in the Musketeer, and I wanted to see them as well. You don't get enough chance to support them, do you? Because they're a different league to.
We've got Leigh from the Chuckle Truck on here just saying, he never got a chance to play the Winter Gardens. Cough, cough, cough. Obviously, like a little gig. Pete Ems, do you know Pete Ems? I don't know Pete Ems.
Yes. He is another man that I cannot miss off. I was going to mention later.
Yep.
Pete is very much like me. He does the lights for me and everything. We're both knocking on, but he's a pleasure to work with, and we work so well. It's just he's got no taste in football and music. No, he calls himself Thunder Road Lightning. That should give you a clue who he likes. Mr. Springsteen and that. But he's a lovely fella, and I hope now he's a granddad, it's not going to slow him down, because any event I have, I always ask Pete. And we moan about it.
Those obviously you've raised a bit of money for that. How much have you raised up to now? Do you know?
It's gonna. I would think it's about 18,000, and we're still not finished. Got a little bit in the bank. I've still got the last Winter Gardens gig we done before we lost Charlie. We raised money for a bench and a brass plaque for George Parish, because George was a mayor, but he really was a muso. So we've got a brass plaque, but because of COVID and everything, we haven't been able to put it up. But where
was you going to put that, Bob?
It's going to be out by the town hall, because he was a mayor, but he loved Banbury. Let me have a look. Is it on there? A lot here. The Let's Play project, £1,500. A little place in Middleton Cheney called sent £500. Warwick Air Ambulance, £1,200. Then we donated to Dementia UK and the Churchill for Tony and Charlie. The last couple of gigs we done, we give money to Banbury Young Homeless Project and the Horton General Hospital charity. But I've got a big one somewhere. There's all the letters from the charities.
Wicked.
And we've given Catherine House about 3 lumps, 1,250, 1,150 and another 1,250. We done the Churchill Hospital. That's the one we done at Wood Green. and we give them a donation of £4,260.
Rick, that's amazing.
That was for one of our own. Derek died of prostate cancer, and that's where he was being treated. The Brodie Centre, £1,500. But then there's been lots of other things that we've done. We've done Till Dawn and Dirty Jack DC done a gig at the bowling alley, which raised £1,000 for, that was Save the Horton charity. The Deer Jam, that was great. I don't know what's going to happen there, but Jem and Anthony, we raised money for, quite involved with. It's a lovely young fella called Billy, and he needs an operation. It's called Billy's Wish to Walk. Okay. And we've done it at Deer Jam for him, but we've had a couple of real fantastic balls at Holcombe. Not the Holcombe, what's the other one? Hopcroft Holt, sorry. The Holcombe went years ago. And I've always had the Dodgers. Have you come across those? They're a great local band, and they've done it twice. So that's other things. There's so many other things. We've done it for, well, we've done the coconut bra. They had these coconut bras at, I think that was the first Deer Jam, because I compared all those and helped. And the thing is with these people, that it's all the same people, and they help. And most of them, God bless them, are ladies. They, you know, you don't want to get on the wrong side of them. But we all had to wear this coconut bra that was going about, and it looked too good on Jason Glynn. I remember that.
Yeah, well, he's got a bit of a thing for those, I think.
Well, that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Let's hope that goes ahead. And of course, Bodfest is, I'm glad that I'm on the committee there. It's a pleasure to be there.
So you've done Deer Jam. Obviously, lots of people know about that. Bodfest.
Yeah. What else have I done?
Blocks Fest.
Oh yes, yeah. One day I went there as a punter, and I ended up running a stage, and it poured with rain. Bushfield Smith were on, and stuff. I think the Moonies were there as well that year, but that's a shame, because that was a great event, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if the guys just got tired of doing it, or there was too much effort. I don't know. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
I know it was a weekend. There was side stalls and things, wasn't there? Yeah. 3 pubs all putting on bands.
Yeah, because that's what it was like at Bodfest at one time, when all the pubs were involved.
Yeah.
Then I got involved when they moved to the rugby club, and things went quite right there. So I think, like Wood Green, it's better to go somewhere where you can handle what you've got.
Right.
And if you sell out, the tickets have been advertised long enough, and if people don't really commit themselves nowadays, they wait to the day, don't they?
Yeah, but we need more commitment.
Well, you see, last year with Bodfest, when it was called off, the money that we'd already outlaid, which was dead money, so we couldn't risk that again this year. But with Bodfest, I think the committee's only about 11. And they do all that, absolutely brilliant. And all the bands want to go there, don't they?
I mean, like you say, it's gone from just a little pub thing to like almost it is a festival, you know.
It's a festival. Yeah, no two ways about it. And if people could see the cost of putting it on, I don't know whether I'm right in saying it, but a couple of years ago, it cost about £16,000 to put on. Insurances and security, because there's nothing missed. It is taken care of, and it's 3 days you're setting up. Well, Jason, who does the sound and lighting and that sort of thing, he's there from the Wednesday, I think it is. And then we've toyed with putting something else on, because it's there, the field's done, putting something up on the Friday night as well. We looked at a cinema, but then everybody's doing cinemas nowadays, aren't they?
Really? I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not really a festival girl, but I shouldn't admit that.
No, I think last week at the rugby club, didn't they have one of these drive-in cinemas?
Oh, right, okay.
And they've had it in People's Park, they've had it in the marketplace. And once you've done it like in the marketplace, and that it was free. And you can't compete with that, can
so
you?
how do you go about getting? Obviously, if you've got to outlay £16,000, I mean, is that something you have to put up front, and how do you kind of go about funding that?
You pay your holding deposits and that sort of thing,
Right.
and then you pay when you get your invoice.
Sure.
I mean, the toilets and that are a hell of a lot of money. But no, the festivals around, because I love the Fringe Festival as well, as Croppedy at the Red Lion and the Brasenose. I've got the Brasenose lineup. The Red Lion are going to get me theirs, because even though they're not charity, I want to promote everything because it's going to be local bands, isn't it? And that's a way of me helping you, because when I get my events done for a very good price, if I can get you a couple of gigs, it helps. Nice. It's not you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I just want to put good word in.
You're doing plenty of scratching, Bob, don't worry.
Banbury playing. And that's one of my ambitions before I pack in. I would love to get all the bands from across the years together to do, it might take a weekend or something, I don't know, but finding a venue and that sort of thing's a different matter, because the other thing I've found out is how responsible you are for other people's actions.
Okay.
Alcohol and stuff like that. Because we'd love to put something on at Spiceball Park, but you can't guard it and that sort of thing. Alcohol, the river and that sort of thing.
Right, okay.
Because I tried many, many years. Anne, bless her, from the town council, who's no longer there, I used to always ask her, and when she come up and said, let's talk about Banbury music mix, and that was our idea, and what I wanted to do then was reward the people, because it's great. You've done it. Marketplace, and it's done so well, and that's done by Banbury Town Council, that are a very, very small group of people. Then you have the sound guy, which is Ian, and Pete and I done the stage and the lighting and stuff like, and we stayed there till the end. We cleared up and everything. We started at 12 o'clock and we went home at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Shout out for Ian Maris, was it Soundwave Audio? That's
it. But then you see other events that I go to, you've got Ollie, who's great, Jason Hill. They're all good people. Yeah,
I've known Jason from a long time back. He's amazing lighting show he used to do for us. Absolute diamond.
Such a nice guy. And he's on the committee with us at Bodfest as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, it goes round in these little circles, and we try, of course we want every band to play, but you've got to give everybody a try, haven't you?
Absolutely.
You've got to freshen it up. But what we do at Music Mix, it was a shame that it was called off last year, but I can understand why. But we like to reward the people like yourselves that have done so much for charity. People don't seem to see that, do they? And you won't say, you've no idea how much you raise in a year, do you? All the musicians in Banbury, you couldn't come up with a figure, could you?
No.
It's going to be a few £1,000s.
Yeah, we do. We have done lots of. We always get asked because we always enjoy it. It's always a good night. And that's what we're about.
That's it, and it shows. When you get on there, everybody face lights up. But it must be great for you when you were in the marketplace, seeing how much the Banbury public enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Oh, it was a brilliant night. It really was. Yeah. I wouldn't even dare to think how long that took you to organise that, Bob. That was a stellar achievement.
Well, but it was team. And, I've got to give a big shout out to Matty, because he's my right-hand man. I'm his left-hand man.
Matty Keith, yeah. Okay.
Matty, he's brilliant. He helps me with anything and that sort of thing. But then all the stuff that he's done for charity as well, but all part of the team. It's okay saying I do this and I do that. Yeah, I do, but we all do it together. I'm not a hero or anything. I love doing it. I get seeing people's faces and making the friends that I've made, because, my wife will say to me, you're getting on and you're going out around with all these 50-year-olds. You're old enough to be the dad, which I am, but I don't think of that. And the love of music, they've got me into, you know, because I've never stopped loving music. From my mum used to sing when I was 5. She used to sing to me all the time. I'd be singing along. That's what got me interested in music.
Okay.
But now, I can remember when we done one of these gigs at the Mill, I learned a new word from all you youngsters. Awesome. That was a new word to me. Awesome. I said, I've learned a new word here tonight. But seeing you musicians enjoy yourself and the crowd as well, because they're all your friends, aren't they?
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
They're so loyal.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carol just mentioned that you also helped brilliantly with Spookfest, which was another really successful event that went on for a few years.
Well, stay there a second.
I've got some pictures of that one, yeah.
Stay there a second.
We're not going anywhere, Bob.
Spookfest is back.
Ah.
Fingers crossed. Because I don't know if you know the history of Spookfest. Sherida basically set it up because her mum passed away. Dorothy. I knew Dorothy. We worked at Chapman's, a little firm in Banbury that was way back in the 20s. But Dorothy and I used to have a lot of fun there. Anyway, I emceed it a couple of times and that sort of thing. And another shout out, that was basically done by the girls. The way it was dressed up and everything, it was fantastic. They worked so hard. And the way they dressed in a jacket and trousers. And they said, what you come as? I said, I'm a psychiatrist. But they all had that. Then the next couple of times, I got dressed up for it. But they're changing the theme this year. It's going to be a Mexican.
What?
Mexican.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Mexican.
Okay.
It is the 30th of October at General Foods Club. It's now already on the webpage. 250 tickets and that's it. Because you've got to respect General Foods Club. When it first opened, you could have 400 in there. But fire regulations and that now, it's 250. So there's 250 tickets. They are £15 in advance. I hope they're listening. And it's over 18s, but there is a special thing as well. They reserve the right to refuse entry if you're not in fancy dress.
Okay, that's good. I think everyone normally honours that, don't they?
And if you can, get on your website, because it's no good after the fact. If it's sold out, it's sold out. It's no good going to anybody and saying, I want a ticket. You can get us a ticket. You can't. You've got to be responsible.
Carol said it's Day of the Dead, she says, mentions here. Day of the Dead, she's mentioned. Because it's the Mexican thing, isn't it? The Mexican theme, Day of the Dead, is kind of celebration in Mexico.
I don't know. This is me and I'm alive.
I know, yeah, but they celebrate. I believe that's right, Carol, isn't it? It's a celebration.
You know about it then? You know
no, it's only because I saw a film once.
Yeah. And I've got another great lineup. The uninvited social services, never mind until dawn. And they get dressed up. I can remember the first one I went, Matty had a T-shirt on with all his guts hanging out. It's horrible. It'd be great to see that because it's a very special place to all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then every charity, isn't it? You know, like I was saying about Billy's Wish to Walk, that was going really well. I think the figure that he had to raise was £85,000.
Wow.
And I think we got to around about 40, and then all this happened. And the thing is, I think we have to have the operation done before he's 10. And I think he's about 8 now.
Okay.
So, but then there are so, you know, there are so many charities, and they're all so deserving, aren't they?
Absolutely. Well, it's amazing. So we can come back to this in a little while, Bob, if you want to. But also, in your spare time, you also got a little radio station going on, haven't you? You started it kind of a few weeks ago.
I think we started about the same time, didn't we? I
Yeah,
think
you
it's
mentioned
my
that. It was a bit of a freak, really, wasn't it? Maybe I mean, it's a double
you
header,
calling it free.
a
You
freak,
calling me a
and a
freak?
coincidence.
Thank you. That's better.
That's what I mean. But
It's all
yeah,
that talk about Spookfest.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started it because I've been on a couple of radio stations, but I could never do what I wanted to do, and that was solely promote Banbury. I do other shows. It's still in its infancy. I'm getting licenses through and that sort of thing. So, because Matt is helping me on this, he's my tech bloke because I'm absolutely rubbish with technical stuff. Wrong generation. Anything physical I can do, but mentally, you know, you put that. My grandson, you know, granddad. But to promote Banbury music, all the charity events going, and also businesses nowadays, because they all need help. It costs me nothing to tell it, and you know, I do it quite a bit. I share it on Facebook because we're all in this together, aren't we? And you get all these negative things, people saying that Banbury's not a very nice place and stuff like that. But through the radio station, and I will do programs during the day and that sort of thing. I've had a couple of people offer to come and do shows and that sort of thing. But it is very, very early days at the moment, but I'm enjoying it. If any band members, musicians and that sort of thing, if you've got any recordings, Mark, if you could send them to me, I will play them for you because we've got so much talent. And it's another good way. If you're putting stuff out yourself, your own songs and that sort of thing, I can play them for you.
Okay, and you play that on, is it on Saturday night you do that?
Saturday night, yeah, 7:30 till 8, but it goes on a little bit because also it sounds funny. I put a video and a DVD on the end. Last week it was Leatherette, and if you haven't seen that, it's brilliant. I've put Rufus and people like that up there as well because they got video. I can only use what I've got.
Right. So anyone out there watching,
all you musicians, you're lovely people, but you do need kick up the backside every now and again.
You need to get our music out to people like Bob, or certainly to Bob anyway.
That's it, because I've had Kathy, you know, she sent me her stuff, bless her, because she used to live next door, but to me, Kathy.
Okay. Kathy Hatton.
Yeah, but I love the stuff that Ben Benyon's got out as well. I play them a lot, either Ben or the band, Freeway Jam.
Yeah.
But I've got musicians going way back as well, freewheeling James and all that sort of thing, and the music sounds so good, and that's what I want to keep doing.
That's brilliant, Bob. It really is good. So we want to send that out to you. How do we send that via? If you got, we'll tag an email address on here, won't we, later?
It's. Shall I do that afterwards or no? Now
you can say it now anyway. We can tag it on afterwards.
Bob Dainty at msn.com, and if it's a video, I like it in MP4,
yeah,
that's it, or a WAV file for music, or an MP3.
So how do we listen to the radio station? How do we tune in?
You just put it on Saturdays on YouTube, and I post it on like I've been doing this on Banbury Gig Guide, my own page, the Winter Gardens page, because that's another thing I haven't spoke about. I run a page called the Winter Gardens Banbury. We're almost 1,400 people, and we get lots of good ideas and things like that from other people. We put a few little thoughts for the day and that, because you have to keep freshening things up, don't you?
Absolutely.
You have to, otherwise people look, it's the same old, same old. It's like when you perform, isn't it? You've got to put new stuff in, otherwise people say, oh no, they did the same.
Not in our case.
No.
Bob Villeris has said hi. He's tuned in to say hello.
That's good.
Yeah. I was going to say, so the radio station is called Radio Music Mix, is it?
Banbury Music Mix Radio, just like in the marketplace.
Okay, and that's what we look for on YouTube when we want to listen.
Yeah. There's 9 up there at the moment, but you will notice there's a difference now. We're getting all the sound levels right, because it's all very hard, isn't it, to get everything right at the same time, isn't it?
Mm.
And we started off with a new mixer, and we found it wasn't good enough. So we've got another new mixer here, and I think if he could, Matty would marry it. He
I think he's in love with the mixer, is he?
Yes. He recommended it, but no.
Keep up the good work, mate. Thanks for all your support. So there's obviously from the Scalextrics.
Yeah, well,
I
remember fitting carpet for Tom his mum when he was a little boy in Twyford. That's how I remember a lot of you boys. You know,
yeah, I remember you coming to my mum's and doing her carpet back in the 70s.
70s?
Yeah, it would have been probably, or 80s. Some hideous carpet style that went out of fashion.
That's it. No, because that was great. I had a career in that, and it was, it's been brilliant.
You're still getting out now and again to do it. I understand you got a few aches and pains from that.
Yeah, the week that I don't want, I'm working tomorrow, but it's all for people I know, and it's sad that people want me to go, because really, it's better the devil you know, isn't it? Yeah, it takes me a little bit longer to get down and up.
I asked him. I remember you sort of like hammering your knee in to move the. I don't know what you call that thing.
Stretcher, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a physical movement. I reckon they must have used that for a lot of these online kind of exercise routines. It's quite a good one. It's almost like a mountain climber you're doing, as they call it these days.
But with that, I could move a grand piano, but I had moved a piano by stretching the carpet. You could see it move. But I did used to get an awful lot of fluid on the knee as well. But no, life's been good on that, and I'm always there, along with my work, has been music.
Yeah, it's some brilliant stuff. And what we haven't mentioned, Bob, you've got a nice badge on your shirt there.
Oh, yeah.
Nice 335. It looks like a 335 Gibson.
Yeah.
What's the relevance of that?
Well, unfortunately, as I say, I've been friends of the Rocking Berries since 1963, and I think it was the last day of July last year, Chuck, the founder member of the Rocking Berries, died, which was very sad.
Yeah.
And when we went he had his funeral, and I was one of the 30 asked to go in, which, that tops virtually everything. To think that he had so many friends in show business and that, and then they had a wake at a pub, because back in Birmingham, the service was being back to there, and when I went back, there was UB40 there and people like that. It was absolutely brilliant. But they'd been a great band. They'd done 50, because I actually got them to come to Banbury. They'd done one of our gigs to raise money.
Richard.
Another one that sold out. That was another £10, and I think we donated the Help for Heroes for that one. But that they come, and I always wanted their last gig, but it wasn't to be. But Chuck passed away at the funeral, and I still keep the page up to scratch. That's got quite a few members, but it's harder finding stuff from way back in the 60s, old posters and things like that. Because the Berries, when they'd done the Royal Command performance, they were stopped from doing two things. One, they used to do a PJ Proby impersonation. He was famous for splitting his pants, and they used to do that. They said, no, you can't do that in front of Her Majesty the Queen. And the other one was they used to take the mick out of Harold Wilson. His hat on, and our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And they were stopped doing that as well. They had a great career, never got the recognition they deserved, but there are so many other bands like that.
Mm.
And I would love for Banbury to have a band that made it worldwide.
Yeah,
That
that'd
would
be
be good,
something.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's it. It would be.
That'd be nice.
And we've got the talent there. I mean, some of Ben's songs are absolutely beautiful.
Mm.
There's one called Women in Waiting. It should have, you know, been released as a single.
Right.
I tried to get the BBC to do it when they had the repatriation of soldiers and that at Bryce Norton, but they thought it was a little bit too morbid for it.
Mm.
But you got to take a risk in life, haven't you?
Absolutely,
But,
absolutely.
you know, people will listen to that song and they can identify with it.
Oh, that's
That
lovely.
was a funny story because I posted up. I thought, well, I bet I'm playing all these songs, and I hadn't played a Fairport song. So I played one from Dave's 60th birthday because I've known Dave since about 1963, 64. He and Steve Gibbons. Anyway, Dave was talking at Birmingham Town Hall on his birthday, and he said, we're going to play a Ben Benyon song. Unfortunately, Ben's not here. He got the dates wrong. He come last week. Whether it's just a joke, I don't know. I'll have to ask Ben that. Because when Freeway Jam done the Bodfest 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was at the rugby club, I was running the stage and it ran really well. And I just say a Freeway Jam were going on at 2 o'clock. And it was about 2 minutes to 2. And Ben said, I'm going to go and get another pint and go to the toilet. I said, you're not. And he went on and done it. But he did. He put something on Facebook saying, I was a diamond geezer.
You certainly are.
But no, there's lots of nice people. We're a nice crowd, people. And I just like doing what I'm doing. But it's not me doing it. It's a team. And that's what I always wanted to be part of a team. But there are places that don't want teams. They run as individuals and things like that. But with music, we're all in it together, aren't we?
There's too much to do. There's just too much to do to be able to do it on your own unless you're a full-time, you know, when you're doing other things.
You don't find people fall out. You make the best of a bad job. And at the end of the day, you look back and say, bloody hell, that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, learn by your mistakes and you move on and get it better next time, don't you?
There are times when me and Peter, 2 o'clock in the morning, when I'm dropping him home because we can't take his lights and out the van, saying, why are we doing this? Here we are, because Pete is a bit younger than me. I don't know, but we love it.
I mean, I always leave something behind at a gig every time I do a gig.
I remember that. We had a bloke when I think the Meanies done Banbury Music Mix, and there was a guitar stand left.
Yeah, I always leave something, Bob. And what was the thing was, he called me up. I think he called me up the next morning and said, I didn't even know I'd lost it. And he brought it round to my house, and I thought, Christ, that's service for you, you know. So I thought I was going to be another guitar stand down, but he's only going to bring it around my house the next morning, which is pretty brilliant. So thanks for that, Bob. I've still got my guitar on it now. I think it's right here.
Have you?
There it is, the guitar stand.
Better
pretty exciting for the viewers to see.
You know, Harry, I think he done Deer Jam. Harry Batsford, you know, the old drummer.
Yeah, Harry. Yeah, of course I know.
Harry. He left his rucksack there. So I put it on the van and I told him, and he said he'd pick it up. In the end, I think it was a year, and I give it to his mum the following year at Deer Jam. Because I don't know what's happening now. I'd hate to see that die because they raised an awful lot of money for different causes, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. It's been going for a few years, wasn't it? It was done 3 years or so there, something like that.
No, I think it was 6.
Was it 6, crikey?
Yeah, well, it would have been 6 if it hadn't stopped, like, you know. Carol said on one of the photographs the other day, that was 2015. So it would be 6, wouldn't it?
Wow.
But we didn't do last year. We had the lineup and everything, like we did for Banbury Music Mix, but that was disappointing. But, you know, we're all alive, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's what we've got to see. But there are some things to look forward to. I think I was telling you the other day about Catfish Creek doing a country festival at the Pig Place at Atterbury. They got some country bands going there. And they're a great lot of band to play with, you know. They're rude and that to you, but the worst thing I used to say, because, you know, James a Villa supporter and I'm a Birmingham supporter. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know you're a Birmingham supporter.
yeah, but James is a Villa supporter, and I used to call them Cat Shit Creek. But when I got to introduce him at Vodfest, I had to be very careful that it was very straight, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together for Cat Fish Creek.
Well done.
But they're a fun band that we can look, you know, in the future.
Yeah.
Social services as well. I've never seen blokes enjoy it as much as they do. They put their heart and soul into it. Yeah. Till Dawn, of course, the meanies, and I can't miss out Rufus, Dirty Jack, Nevermind, and I better not miss out the Uninvited because Claire will kill me. I'm frightened of her. And Sue. But no, you know, I wouldn't have thought when I come here in 1965 that, you know, nearly 60 years later, I would be talking about modern day music as well as old music. But there's a hell of respect from all of us. You know, people that know, you look at musicians nowadays and think, my God, they've got all these gizmos and that sort of thing. And people run into bars and all the laws that you have to abide by. But the general public don't see that, do they?
Yeah.
Which is sad. But, you know, I think you've got to put your hands together and clap anybody that puts anything on there, because it's not easy. And it's not going to get any easier. I mean, you look at all the pubs around Banbury, the Banbury Crosser, are now starting to put little nights on. The Wine Vaults have got things coming up, haven't they? The Brasenose, I see they've announced their line-up for the festival, the Fringe Festival, which looks good. I don't know a lot of the bands, but the ones that I do know are good. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Red Lion and see what else happens. Because also the other thing that I do that I don't think many people know, I go around care homes playing music and they love it. You know, I think I told you the story the other day about
tell us a little bit about that.
I went to Gracewell and a couple of ladies met me at the door and they said, hello, Bob, music today? I said, yeah, and I joked with them. And then they went and got the chairs and the coordinator, activities coordinator said, I don't know how you do it, Bob. They can't tell you who gives them the dinner. They can't tell you what they've had for dinner. You were here, say, a month ago. They remember you and music. And I think that says a lot for me. Music is a medicine, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's therapy. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just seeing people. Yo, Phil, I've just seen that one.
Can you see the messages? Can you?
Yeah, I can see it. But well, you know, I don't shut up because Matty was worried that I'd dry up, and I must admit, I was feeling a little nervous tonight because what is it, poacher turned gamekeeper or something? This is, isn't it? You know, I go and interview other people, and it's just like when we had a test the other night. It's just you and me, really. We can't see anybody else, but there's obviously people listening, which is great.
Yeah, we've got a few people listening tonight. I mean, I get to see little I could say it was hundreds, but actually we've got 20 people listening in at the moment.
Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah. We're all others. If you don't call your friends and tell them we're going to keep talking. But no, we've got to get this COVID out of the way. I think it's going to take a while because people are going to worry about it, aren't they? Yeah,
I don't know how people are going to feel. I don't know how I feel, to be honest, about it. Really, I don't really know. We have got some gigs booked, and we have got a free gig coming up. Actually, it's at the Brasenose as well. They've got some new owners. They've got some new owners going in there. Yeah, and I've spoken to one of the owners who called me recently, a lady called Lucy. And they're doing a gin evening throughout a gin day. I think it's like different gins and things. And it's just you just rock up and there's going to be some bands playing. And we're on in the evening, I believe. I say we.
The Jim.
No,
It's not
gin.
gin, it's a gym.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You got to go and work out. Well, no, that sounds good. They seem to be doing a lot of things, don't they, over there? They've got these little pods up, and they were asking for people to give them names for people from the village and that sort of thing, and call each pod a name. You know,
Okay.
Pod Dainty. That looks good, doesn't it? But I'm seeing some stuff here. Lee's been rude. Bob will never dry up. No, I got a dishwasher. But I remember it very well, Lee. Lee and I had done it together at Middleton Cheney care home. And he's the same as me. He goes in there and he does it because it's so good to see these people. Another lady that touched me was at the ride-ins. I said, what sort of music do you like? She said, well, not really into music. I played 2 hours of rock and roll and everything. She come over at the end. She said, oh, thank you ever so much. You made me feel 16 again. And,
Lovely.
you know, you don't want anything more than that, do you?
No.
You know,
There's Tanisha as well. Tanisha said hi, and you're doing a wonderful job. I mean, Tanisha's done lots for the community as well. I mean, she's a young lady who's really focused and...
Well, Tanisha put together the first Deer Jam, didn't she?
Mm.
And you know, it was the same old people doing it all. But I got to present with a bouquet of flowers at the end of the night. She didn't kiss her.
I was going to say, did you get a kiss?
She didn't kiss her. I think she must have a will of steel. She can't be human. I must catch up with her as well, actually. But you know, it takes one to know one, doesn't it? I mean, all the work they done as well over at the Three Conies, because we done that summer festival, didn't we? When you were on in the middle of the afternoon because you were doing a wedding reception or something in the afternoon.
Yeah, I do recall that.
Yeah. And do you remember the one? And do you remember the one at Sugarswell, the Sugar Fest over at Shillington?
Yes, and the tent fell down.
You were doing that in the afternoon. You had all the kids on the stage as well. I sent you a photograph of that. But the funny thing there was it was an inflatable stage, you know, and they had this Jimi Hendrix tribute bloke, and he was playing, and it was deflating.
Brought the house down.
And what he was singing when it was coming down was "The Wind Cries Mary." And everybody's trying to push it up and hold it up. But, you know, that was a funny thing. Then I think you were doing Bodfest in the afternoon because you were doing so. Oh no, I think you went from Bodfest over to the Conies another year.
Could have. Well, you know my life better than I do. To be honest, I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, if you're interested in something, you remember these things, don't you?
Of course, I was interested.
So, you want to put carpet in a pod? I'll have to look at all those tomorrow. But no, it's nice when you get people like Tom saying thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? I mean, it is good, Bob. I mean, Bob, one of the things we ask when we're on the show is we get a little bit of support from Chalky's Music, who's a local guy that does all the music. Obviously sells his music that he has done since the early 80s. And we always ask your favourite, like your Desert Island album, really, or which we can kind of add to the list.
Only
this is one for you, difficult one for you to think of, I know, but you did mention one, I think.
Yeah, well, but you know, I've got some. What that I'd have to go with. I'd have to go with ELO Out of the Blue, I think, because that was it. But then there was a great. It was like a concept album in the late 70s. It was called Magic Garden by the Fifth Dimension, and they were one heck of a band. But no, it would be Out of the Blue, ELO.
Out of the Blue. So yeah, we'll get that one on the list for 30% off.
Yeah,
I'm sure he won't mind.
No, because I've done carpets for him. Is Nick still there as well?
I don't know.
No, I haven't seen Nick for a long time.
Yeah, but Bob, you know, is there anything else you wanted to add from anything? Is there anything else you wanted to say about anything that is coming up at all?
Well, you know, if people could listen in or listen back to see what I'm doing, and if they've got any suggestions, what I could do to make the program better, or what. I always listen, because it's no good talking to yourself, is it? If you listen to people, give them what they want.
Give it a little bit of feedback. It's
Yeah.
nice,
But
I've a bit.
hoping for things. Once we can get back in the mill, I'd love to do a great event for Banbury after all this. But
Yeah.
you are limited to space at the mill. If somebody could donate a field in town and we could put a festival on for Banbury, the lockdown festival, or getting out of the lockdown festival. But I think Leigh's got something quite exciting coming up, which I won't say about. You can ask him about it.
Okay.
Getting all musicians together. And also, Banbury United are doing lots of music events as well.
Yeah.
But we're all in it too. We're not against each other. We're all there to help each other, aren't we?
Absolutely. I think we will be even more so after this.
Yes. Yeah.
This nightmare.
I hope so. And another thing that we haven't mentioned that we've really got to mention is, I think it was Tom's idea, was the Banbury Quarantine Collective, where all 30 musicians got together and done that great video with a little help from my friends. And we got over £5,000 for that. Banbury people, when push comes to shove, they're very supportive, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that couldn't have been easy, because I can remember saying to Tom, because I did have a quick word with Anne when she was still at the council, wouldn't it be good if we could get all those together, say at the Christmas light switch on? And I had a quick word with Tom, and he said, could you imagine 30 different musicians on the stage, all the different levels? And that's all. Anyway, it didn't go ahead because of COVID. But, musicians, you can hold your head up high and be proud of everything you do.
Oh, that's very kind. Well, with all the musicians here listening in, and there'll be hundreds of people hopefully who will kind of watch this video, and I'm sure they'll all join in saying, a massive appreciation benefit from the charities that you so generously give, and your time is amazing, Bob. And also the audiences as well, because not only is it for the charities, it's for the musicians, but also the audiences who absolutely love what you've done.
We're all one team, aren't we? We try to put on shows that people want to go to for the charities. Basically, these charities are chosen by the musicians.
Yeah.
And for me, at the end of the day, we can get them a place at Banbury Music Mix in the marketplace or something else. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because, you don't get your rewards. You don't do it for reward. I don't do it for reward. And it's nice to be acknowledged for something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. No, I think,
and hopefully it won't be too long before we can do it. But Phil Ayres is joking. He's put Bob Dainty for president. When Phil, going back to the Winter Gardens when Phil introduced the road nights, and he said about Bob Moore wearing this shirt from 1964, 50 odd years ago, Phil said, I have trouble if I buy a shirt last week fitting me this week, which got a big roar. But I've been playing. He was in a band that I didn't know about. Tony gave me a CD, and they call the Honey Shakers, Martin Green and another fella from Bracknell. And it's brilliant to revisit these things that I haven't heard of. And you think, well, how did I miss that? They were so good.
Absolutely. And there's some amazing musicians.
Banbury just keeps going from strength to strength, and hopefully I don't see any reason why it won't. No. But we've just got to try and get on that map.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. With people like you around, Bob.
I'm just I just hope I'm around when it happens.
Yeah, of course you will. I mean, with people like you around, Bob, it makes it much easier.
And get the blue plaque. That's my next aim.
Okay. But
No, if